Hey y'all, Bynx here, and welcome to Bynx Bants, the weekly show where we talk about everything Marvel Snap. And today is an awesome one. We're going to be looking at the best cards of 2025. There was a ton of cards released last year, and I went through a huge list of all of them and broke down into a top 10. I have some honorable mentions as well. And as far as my criteria goes, it's not like what are the actual strongest cards, which cards see the most play. It's just for me as a card game enjoyer and player, which cards are just the best cards, the cards that I'm really happy got added into Marvel Snap. We're gonna start with an honorable mention, which is just all of the zombie cards. You can kind of pick and choose like individual ones, which are good, but I think just overall having the zombie season with like a unique mechanic and building a package around them that you can kind of pretty individually adjust the power level of up and down, and then probably not getting any other horde cards. I really like that idea. I like that they were being going for something a little bit different. I think the horde mechanic is pretty good overall, and I really like that set of cards that got brought out there. Next honorable mention is going to be Herbie. The ability each turn this is in play, swap to a new activate ability until one is used. There are 4 different abilities, so if you play it down on turn 2, you're going to be able to swap through all of them. I just think that this is like a really good example of just like an all-encompassing, powerful 2-drop. That they pushed it a little bit too far with certain things earlier in the year, like the original release of Surge was a little bit too strong, and Mr. Fantastic First Steps, when it got released as a 2-2, was a little bit too strong. But Herbie is really a very solid example of how you should have a just kind of 2-cost card that can pretty much go in any deck. Like Herbie's seen play all over the place, and it's just kind of like this glue card that gets added into certain things. Really, really awesome, really, really well designed card. Our next honorable mention is going to be Moonstone. I really enjoy this card and the decks that are around it. They feel very powerful, but they're still rather fair. It is a 4/6 with ongoing, has the ongoing effects of your 1, 2, and 3 cost cards here. Really cool interactions with Mystique, being able to copy a very powerful on reveal to be able to then double it. Led to a lot of different decks getting built. Was part of my, really one of my favorite decks was just like that Bastion Spectrum style deck that was in there. And it's just a really, really nice card that works with a lot of cards in a great way and never felt too broken. I don't think anyone's ever, I've never really heard anyone saying like Moonstone should be changed or nerfed. And for a card to come out with this insane of an ability and to not really cause any problems, but still be integrated into like the snap game plan and have people really enjoy it is really, really hard to do. And I think they did a wonderful job designing Moonstone. Next up, we have Surge. Some people might really dislike Surge, but I think that Surge is a super fun card that got into the game. Some people probably have it actually even way higher as far as cards that came out last season. The 2 energy 1 power with on reveal, give the top card of your deck -1 cost and +1 power. After you play it, repeat this ability. Super, super powerful card. It got released as a 2/2, which was probably a mistake. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the future, maybe even like the +1 power got taken away and it gets brought back to 2/2. But just a really, really fun card for getting to play it out and then being able to play cards a little bit ahead of the power curve. Kind of an interesting way of ramping cards. With the downside of like you have to keep playing those cards. So it's all about trying to build a deck that can take advantage of that without having too many like big cards that you can't play. But a very, very outstanding card. Decently well balanced. It's still probably a little bit too strong, and they're kind of running out of areas to move it unless they get rid of the +1 power. But I think that I've had so much fun with Surge, and a lot of people have really enjoyed playing it in their decks. And last honorable mention, we have Khonshu. People don't really talk about Khonshu kind of coming out and really revitalizing discard and giving it a bit of a different identity. But I really like Khonshu. When discarded, return in the next phase, and then on reveal, resurrect a card you discarded to another location. Its power set to 5. And if you discarded it once, it's 8, and discarded it twice, it's 12. Khonshu really just gave these decks a backup plan that allows cards like Corvus to get played, where you can like get rid of a very important card, knowing that you have something like Khonshu to be able to then pull it back up later. A really, really well made card. I was like really confused when I first saw it. I didn't really love it, but I really think that Khonshu is just well designed and well built together and very strong, but doesn't feel super overpowered. I tell you what, I really think discard needed this card with some of the other discard cards that they've added this last year. I don't think if they had Khonshu that a lot of those cards would really see play. So having Khonshu as like this another like boss card that's also like a backup plan in case you like discard too many of the wrong cards or a card that you don't actually want to discard is really, really interesting. And I think they kind of hit this out of the park. I didn't really give this card too much respect when it first came out, but the more I've seen it kind of develop and the meta develop and have this card be a tool that discard can have, I think it was a really great call to bring this into the game last year and keep like discard being able to do different things to keep up in the meta. And I think now we're getting into our top 10, and we have number 10, Batroc the Leaper. This card came out really early last year, and I think that what I love so much about this card is like it's one cost scaling done well. It's one cost scaling that can only trigger once, one cost scaling that you don't really have total control over because your opponent can move things around too, and it could really mess it up. It's this really cool kind of like risk reward card of a card that'll jump around, kind of like a mini Werewolf by Night in many ways, but limited to kind of one jump per turn. And I just don't think they've done one drop scalers super well, except for Batroc the Leaper. I think that this card is powerful, but you do have to do a lot of things with your deck to make it powerful. And it's still vulnerable to Killmonger and everything like that. And it's just a really, really interesting and fun card. I was thinking about putting Hydra Stomper on here as well, but I kind of like how those two defined a new identity of move. There used to be this like silky schmoove deck that was popular a couple of years ago, and that kind of style of deck really came back with Hydra Stomper and Batroc, and I think they knocked it out of the park with this card's design. It's good, it's strong, but it never feels way too overpowered. Very, very well done. Moving over to number 9, we have Agamotto, a very awesome season pass card that we had, the 5/10 with the ability Game Start, shuffle the 4 Ancient Arcana into your deck. So there's another way to expand your deck, but you're bringing really powerful spells into there. One thing that's crazy about Agamotto is that this card has seen no changes. There's a ton of levers on this card. You can change its power, you can change the cost, you can change the abilities of all the skills, and a lot of people thought that maybe that would happen early on. There was a few things that people thought was really overpowered, but over time, you kind of saw that getting the deck inconsistency of having Agamotto was kind of more important than actually people really thought. So like adding those cards to their deck, even though they're all good cards, it still lowers your consistency. And the fact that this card has always felt playable and fun, but never super broken outside of maybe a little bit at the beginning, there was the people were having a hard time like kind of learning to play around it, is really, really hard for a big boss kind of style card like this. And I really think that they did a great job of building this card. And what's cool is that there's so many different ways to play it. You know, you could throw it into like something like Erisham, where you're just adding more cards to your deck and trying to like increase the consistency of the good cards that you're drawing with Erisham. You can play it just by itself and use those spells and use things like King Eitri to pull out the spells out of your deck to get access tools and to fetch them in a really cool way. Just lots of really cool ways to play Agamotto. I think it's a very, very well designed, very awesome card, and I think a lot of people love playing it. Moving on to number 8, we have Goliath. This is a card that also doesn't really get talked about as far as a card that was really needed in this game. It's a 2 energy, 1 power with the ability ongoing, +1 power for each other ongoing card you have in play. So just an amazing scaling card. It is like tailor-made to fit into a Spectrum style deck where you're trying to play a bunch of ongoing cards and then buff them up. And I tell you what, I don't think if Goliath came into the game last year that ongoing decks would be good at all. This was like really this pinnacle cornerstone card that they needed, kind of like the Morbius for discard, but for ongoing in this really, really awesome way. And I think they designed it well. It's never a card that feels super unfair to lose to, but it still feels very strong. And like I said, I really don't think like Spectrum style decks or anything that is running Goliath right now that's running a lot of ongoing cards could really operate without this card kind of being the linchpin to it. Works great with Moonstone. Just a very well-designed card. And one thing I really am impressed by, especially I've been looking at back over the last year, is just how it feels like Snap like introduces the right cards at the right time to keep archetypes within the same power realm as like new cards that are coming out and getting added to other things. And that's really, really hard to do. It takes a lot of foresight and a lot of like thinking about it. So man, hats off to the Marvel Snap design team. I don't think if Goliath was here, then like Moonstone would see nearly as much play as it does, or all these other cards that are ongoing would really be at the power level to compete. But Goliath gave it this like cornerstone card that doesn't feel bad. It's very fun and powerful to play and really, really great. Fantastic card design. Number 7, we have Nightmare. Boy, this is a awesome card. Originally released as a 3 negative one, now it's a 3/1 with the ability on reveal, replace the text of each card in your hand with text from a random card of the same cost. It's just a really wild card. A huge investment to play it. A 3/1 is horrible tempo, but you're hopefully changing all these cards with like bad abilities into good abilities and get some really crazy things going. Uh, this was one of the cards where I like look back and I was like, man, I was like chomping at the bit to play this card because I haven't touched in a really long time. It's a really interesting card. And it's never going to be like the strongest card out there, but honestly, these decks can compete really well. That's one thing I always remember about Nightmare. It's like whenever we face off against Nightmare and they play Nightmare on 3, you're like, oh man, what the heck am I going to do? Some people hate that aspect of Snap, that like uncertainty of what's going to come. But I think that this card, like the investment makes sense that you're doing, playing a 3/1, having to really not play too many cards that aren't very well statted for their cost, because otherwise Nightmare can like absolutely ruin them. And then there's so many downsides for things you get with Nightmare. You can have terrible cards that could come out. But a really well designed card, and it's really meant for fun, which I think is cool. It's never been a problem. It's never really hit near the point where it's a problem. People only really complain about it if they get just absolutely blown out by it, which is completely understandable. But I loved adding cards in this that have these big, crazy, awesome effects that aren't that good, so that they're like super powerful and competitive. I think that was the problem with Arishem at first, is that they way overtuned how strong it was compared to what you were getting. And it made it so like, oh, it's this really fun card, but then also everyone's just playing it because it's so freaking powerful to be able to play, and it has all these good things. Now that they brought Arishem back in check, it really does feel like a bit more of a fun card, and really like it's very solid in Conquest just because the uncertainty of what's going on. But man, Nightmare, really fun, interesting card. I love that they're still taking big swings like this in the game. Really cool. Up next, we have the Fallen One, a 5 energy, 5 power with the ability on reveal, the max energy equal to this card's power. This is my number 6 card of 2025. And boy, oh boy, man, it is just a crazy card. Really, like you kind of want to either utilize Shuri or Symbiote Spider-Man to try and activate this and get a huge push of power to kind of blow your opponent out. And for a while, this deck really wasn't that good. Like, it was fun and it was kind of funny to play, and like it was interesting to get it out and get these big crazy swing turns. Once Man Spider came around, man, this card is an absolute menace now. Like, being able to have like Man Spider to move your power around, multiply it up, and then especially things like fastball special, adamantium rejuvenation, stuff like that has been really nasty. So it was really cool to see this card come in, be like kind of a meme card, get a little bit of play, but it's more just kind of like for fun to do these big combos, but not super consistent. Now it's kind of like this really mean, nasty, like meta counter to some things that people are doing to play, like Fallen One, to get a huge amount of energy, and then play Magic and slow down the game, and then do some just crazy degenerate stuff on the final turn. I don't know. I might be a problem at some point, this card. Like, they might have to be kind of smart with how they're playing out cards, or because of how strong this ability can be if you really just ramp it up like crazy. But man, like, just a big crazy ramp card where you get like crazy, like you can get basically infinite max energy if you like, Shuri this a 1,000 times and get like huge amounts of max energy. So really love cards like this. Interesting to see what's going to come up with it now that like there's cards that can take advantage of that a little bit more, and it's becoming more and more competitive, how people are going to respond to it. But I love the Fallen One. I think it's a great card in the game. Out of the top 5, and these 5 are going to be really big. This one was tough to put down at 5 because I really love this card. It's Bastion, the 4 energy, 3 power card with the ability on reveal, add copies of your other cards here to your hand, set their cost to 2 and power to 3. Man, I love this card. I think that it's such an interesting way to do like a Moon Girl style effect where you're getting copies of things. It's seen a lot of play in things like Cerebro 3, because you can play it on your Cerebro, you can bash in it, then you get a 2/3 Cerebro, which is crazy. I really like it in decks that are utilizing like things like Moon Girl, Windjet, Victoria Hand to get really powerful results. I actually had a bunch of decks that all got made around like a package of this card, Victoria Hand, Quinjet, Moonstone that we saw earlier, and Moon Girl. and really like put a bunch of different like archetypes behind this like package of energy cheat as well as power acceleration. Just a really, really fun and interesting card. I'm loving how much people are finding different ways to use it. Yeah, I do think that this card is still like really underrated. I think that people really don't fully grasp the power that this card can bring you, but really, really fun, really interesting card. It's a deck builder's delight. Like it's just a cool way to be able to get really cheap copies of things going, and it has some really cool interactions. You know, like I used Mobius offensively with this card because back when Sam's Shield used to start on the field, you had the Sam Shield out and you bastioned it up with Mobius down. You get a 0/3 shield that you can play out. It's just like really cool things like that where you're like setting the cost and power of a card that you're adding to hand. We haven't really seen before. Just really, really awesome things with Bastion. Number 5 card, amazing design card. Love cards like this in Marvel Snap. Moving on to number 4, and this one might surprise a few people. Jennifer Kale. What a simple card. It released as a 2/2, but now it's a 2/3 with the ability Activate. Next turn, you get +1 energy. Just about the simplest card that you could possibly make. It was literally released as Psylocke, but Activate. It was a 2/2, just like Psylocke is, but it had the Activate. Now it's a 2/3, which I think is fair because while I think that Jennifer Kale is almost always better than Psylocke, you get that energy immediately where you have to play Jennifer Kale and then click it. But man, dude, this is such a comfort card to me. A card that you can play out early and then get value from later. A card that can work out your energy curves in weird ways. It's just it's man, simple design like this that really just unlocks a whole different layer to Snap is so awesome. This card is really my comfort card in Super Giant specifically. Like every time I build a Super Giant deck, I'm putting this card in. It's because I think that especially when there's that like unsureness of what your opponent's going to play and what you're going to play with Super Giant, like having the ability to, I always just call it click up, do an extra energy to get a different combo of cards at the right time or push one. And once you play this card down, you really have to think every turn, do I want an extra energy next turn? Can I wait to get that extra energy until a different turn? Like what cards do I want to play this turn? It helps you play Snap better playing this card. It's just such beautiful, elegant, design that I just think is absolutely fantastic. And it's simple, man. I love just simple, strong cards like this. Yeah. Jennifer Kale, if you don't play it like ever, give it a try sometime, especially in Super Giant decks. I think you'll really like how having that extra energy can manipulate how you decide to choose out your turns. Like I said, I really think that like, playing this card makes you a better Snap player because it makes you be honest about like thinking about all these different things that you might not be doing when you're just kind of like going through and playing Snap. Really, really fun, really awesome card. It was probably hard for them to decide to just make a card that's Psylocke but Activate. But you know, this is why I have like a lot of trust in their balance team and what they do because like this card really does so many things different than Psylocke. You know, if you're trying to ramp out a card early, if you're trying to do all these different things, Jennifer Kale can be that option for you for all these different things. Wonderful, wonderful card. I almost wanted to push this higher, but there were some banger cards that came out last year. But I love Jennifer Kale. I love this simple, amazing design. Beautiful card. Getting into the top 3, this is huge. And at number 3, we have Vic Hand, which did come out last year. I was really surprised. It was like the very first card that released, got released on January 7th of last year. But it used to be a 2/3. Now it's a 2/2 with the ability ongoing. Your cards that were created in hand have +2 power. And man, this card has been everywhere for so long, and it allows you to play all these different things. Like it made Kate Bishop so much better. It allows you to play like a bunch of weird cards like Maria Hill or like Mirage got so much better when playing this card. Like Hood went from like kind of this card that was like falling out of practice to being a absolutely primo card to be worked with this. I do like that they brought it back to 2/2. Staying at 2/3 for as long as it did was probably a little bit over staying its welcome because it's a pretty crazy effect. But I love the ability to use this card and to get buffs to any other cards that you're going. There's this really just straight up combo of the Victoria hand into Frigga, because then that Victoria hand is going to get played out. It's going to have 2 Victoria hand buffs from itself and the previous one played. And then any other cards that you're generating into your hand are going to get those buffs as well. Man, this card came in last year and it has seen a bunch of different ways of getting played. I love it with like Bastion and Spectrum. I think that it can work in a lot of decks with just like Moon Girl, with it's not as solely focused on Victoria hand. this is really, really nice option that you can have to be able to get more value out of the random cards that you generate in this game. And it's just been a mainstay for a really, really long time. I think that at 2-2, it should stay balanced for a pretty long time. It's strong and it's hard to beat sometimes. It can feel suffocating to go against sometimes. But I think that it's a pretty, at the end of the day, pretty darn fair like card, and the decks that are played with it feel pretty darn fair. Love this card, love the design. I think that any card that comes in and can like create so many different archetypes, I think is so cool. So Victoria Hand, my number 3 card, really, really well designed, really wonderful card. Number 2, we have Morgan Le Fay. This was originally a 4 energy 7 power card. Now it's a 3/4 with the ability on reveal, return all your discarded and destroy cards to hand with +3 power. Man, this card, if you watch any of my previous Bynx Bants, I definitely talked about Necrobouncer quite a few times, but this is like the first time in a really long time when this card came out. I just got so excited by like a new and different archetype, and I invested so much time into like learning it and moving around with it. This kind of like half bounce, half destroy, like part bounce, part destroy, part discard, part resurrection deck. And then there was a bunch of really cool cards with her and Airwalker when she was a 4/7. There were some ways to play her with Dormammu, and now that she's a 3/4, I think that people are slowly starting to piece it together. I think she might need to get adjusted again because she just feels really weird at 3/4. I don't know what it is exactly and on how the power curves like exactly work, but I really, really like the ways that you can use her when she's a little bit cheaper. There's ways that you can use things like Killmonger and her on the same turn to kill off some of your cards and add them back to your hand. Just a really cool deck building puzzle. Never feels too broken, never feels too terrible, but a really, really interesting and unique effect. And I really love that it's both discarded and destroyed. I think that was a great choice to make sure that this card is as open-ended as possible. There's a lot of different things to do. Hopefully they'll change it. Maybe they'll bring this to like a 3/5 and maybe the deck will feel a little bit better and maybe we'll be able to work some things out. But really, really cool, really awesome deck, really awesome card. Brought back a lot of love from Snap, like really hit at the right time to give me this new amazing deck. And I'm really happy they built this card into the game. And I hope they continue to focus on it to try and get its play rate up and get it to a point where it's really competitive. And going into the number 1 card of the year, you saw it in the thumbnail, you saw it at the beginning. It's Merlin. Number 1 card, Merlin. The 2 energy 3 power with the ability at the start of each turn, add an incantation to your hand. Merlin, especially right now, feels especially crazy because of Shu Lao coming out. And Shu Lao is just so powerful when you have cards like Merlin that are able to manipulate the board and do a lot of different things. But really what Merlin brings to the table is just, oh man, the 3 spells I think are pretty well designed. You know, +2 power and changing a location is something that you really like. You can kind of throw Merlin into decks if you want a way to manipulate and change locations, because if you get it down on 2 or 3, you're very, very likely to end up getting a way to change those locations by the end of the game. The way to accelerate power, I think, is really cool. Once in Future All is a really unique card, like shuffling a card back into your deck for the ability to get you power back. And then it's just like little baby mini Cersei in Polymorph. And man, so many clips and so many highlights have come from Polymorphs for me. I just think it's a really, really interesting card, man. Polymorph is really, really cool. Just being able to pay 1 energy to be able to flip a card up. Man, I like that Merlin like has all these different ways that you can think about it and utilize it. Like having Hood in your deck was always really good with Merlin because like the actual Hood itself is a great target for Polymorph because it's -3. You can bump it up, or you can just send it back into the deck on like turn 5 when you don't need it anymore to make that space up and get rid of that negative power. The way that Omniversal Presence work, I think, is really awesome. One thing that maybe I would be okay with Merlin if like the card cycled or something like that, because it can feel really bad sometimes and you just get like 3 once in Future Alls, and maybe if they cycled it, I don't know how they would like cycle it in a way that would be good for both players, where if like you get one of them and then it kind of starts the cycle of getting 1 in a row. Maybe like there's some information that you can get from when they play the first one of what they are on the cycle. Maybe that could be interesting, because I do think that Merlin might become a problem at some point, but you can always adjust the spells too. But boy, oh boy, just such a cool card. I think that this card in particular, I hear all the time from people saying like it got their love of Snapback. Being able to play these spells and feel like an actual wizard playing this game, just throwing spells out like crazy is really unique and really, really cool. Like, yeah, just from top to bottom, like it's a powerful card. It feels good to play. Doesn't always, like sometimes it can feel pretty bad to play against, but I don't think in general it feels too terrible to play against. And just like from a thematic standpoint, he's a wizard. You get him down, and then you get spells that you can throw out alongside your monsters that you're throwing out on the field. So just knock this card out of the park, top to bottom. I really think that Merlin is a wonderfully designed card. Maybe it's going to be a problem in the future. Maybe the fact that the incantations you had are random is something that might get adjusted to make it feel a bit fair in the future. But boy, oh boy, what a cool card and what a cool addition to Marvel Snap. And those are my top 10 with 5 honorable mentions. So please, please, please tell me down below what you think. Which of my ideas you hated? What card is your favorite of 2025? Maybe it's one that's not even on this freaking list. That would be crazy. But man, I think that 2025 was a great year for Snap cards. Looking through that list, it was crazy how many great cards have been released in the last year. And it's always nice to just sit back and appreciate. I talk about this a lot, but I feel like the online portions of all video games, but Marvel Snap specifically, because it's something that I interact with a lot more, can get really negative and just like hateful towards Second Dinner and hateful towards the design team and always trying to find what's wrong and always trying to pinpoint exactly anything that's like incorrect or not right or not exactly how it should be. And just taking a step to sit back. I play this game all the time. I love this game. I legitimately love Marvel Snap, and I think they've done an incredible job designing cards. And looking back on the last year really, really like lit that up for me of like seeing things like Goliath and Khonshu and when they came out and how impactful it was to keep these archetypes alive and feeling fresh. And I'm just really, really happy that they're doing that. So let me know down in the comments below what you think as far as your favorite cards, but we are going to move on to the cards that came out this week and last week. So we have Linley, Iron Fist, and Dragon Lord that came out. I actually got to play Dragon Lord already. It did come out a little early with the High Voltage Overdrive. So we'll talk about those a little bit, and then we're going to talk about last week's cards. We had Shu Lao, we had Dragon of the Moon, Lockheed, and Majestic Weenbeat. We're going to talk about some Snap news and updates. We're going to talk about High Voltage Overdrive, which is a really cool mode that they have in the game. Moving on with our brand new Series 5 card that we're going to get, Linley, Iron Fist. It's going to be Linley or Linley. All these cards I'm going to have troubles pronouncing. Just gotta bear with me here. It's a 202 power with the ability on reveal, add the Sword of Fuji to another location. What is the Sword of Fuji? That's a great question. It is a 202 power with ongoing. If Linley Iron Fist is here, he has +7 power. So kind of like Sam Wilson is now, where you play this card and then you create it into a different lane. That could be relevant because getting into a lane that's not super powerful can be very important. But I mean, the idea of playing this out in order to get your Iron Fist on top of it seems kind of tough. It's just like, if you're going to be moving cards, I feel like there's way better things that you can be doing than just trying to take up 2 board spots for 4 worth of power and then getting that to 11. It just seems like it's not going to work out exactly that well. Maybe there's some other things with like the ongoing aspect of it that's going to be a little bit better. Maybe it's something that you just look at adding into a deck like Aurora, where you're getting these 2 cards. One's an on reveal, one's an ongoing, going into different locations. Maybe you don't even worry about doing it. I've heard Cerebro 2 is something that people might want to run this in. Cerebro 2 makes a lot of sense. You have Mr. Sinister and Brood. They can add multiple cards in one lane. Now this is a way to add 2 power cards into multiple lanes. Maybe even like getting back into the Storm lane if you're still playing Storm in your Cerebro 2. So it's weird because I think that this card might be interesting and find some cool ways, but I don't think it's because of actually playing Linley Iron Fist and then moving it onto the Sword of Fuji for the +7 power. I just don't think that's strong enough. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe something with Moonstone being on top of this, then you get a giant card. I don't know. We'll see. Interesting card. I don't love it. I don't think it's going to be something that like you need to have in your collection. But it has a lot of design space around it. There's a lot of things that it does, and I'm sure that someone is going to figure out how to make it really strong. The next card you can get for free right now, which is Dragon Lord, the 5 energy, 5 power card with the ability on reveal, put a card from your hand here. Super simple design, just about as simple as design as possible. When I first saw this card, I was like, how do we not have a card that does this already? It seems really, really straightforward and something that we would already have, but we don't. And now here it is. So 5/5, a pretty powerful on reveal. If you like compare it to like Jubilee, Jubilee's a 4/1, but Jubilee pulls a random card from your deck, which does give you some card draw and some card advantage compared to this card. But this card can be a bit more targeted. So kind of empty out your hand and know exactly what the Dragon Lord is going to pull down. How do you make this card work? I'm not exactly sure. I played around with it a little bit. I was trying to do some like Wong shenanigans where you play Wong and then you play Dragon Lord. Dragon Lord pulls 2 cards that are on reveals. Those on reveals go off. Everything starts going crazy. But it didn't feel that good. Maybe I had to figure out the exact right cards to put into it. But I have a bunch of crazy. I was playing like Black Bolt and all these different things like that. So I don't know. Maybe you have to figure out exactly how to do it. But it's a very simple ability, and I think that it can be really powerful in the right hands and with the right deck. When you can repeat this ability like through things like Absman or Grandmaster or Odin, that can be really crazy. You can like play Dragon Lord, have Dragon Lord pull Odin, re-trigger the Dragon Lord, pull another card to come out. So there's lots of ways of just like thinking about how this card can be broken. It's just going to be, how do we figure out how to actually make it, and how important is it going to be to really build your deck so any card that can come out of Dragon Lord is going to be good? I don't know. One deck that I think that this card would probably be served quite well in, and I'm probably going to try it as my next version, is like that Chamber Ramp style deck that has been quite popular with like War Machine and Electro, getting Chamber down and then getting a bunch of big cards into your hand. Dragon Lord seems like a card that can really work with that, and it's a 5-cost card that can work with Chamber. Maybe it's going to be a deck with that and like Majestic Wingbeat all working together to really make Dragon Lord break. But it's just going to be all about like, is this ability strong enough to be like its own individual card? Is a 5/5 going to mess up with like the space that it's actually taking up? But really, really cool, and you can get it for free, like I said, right now through High Voltage Overdrive. Moving on to next week's cards, I think for the first month or the first week of the season, I'm not going to pull the stats just because like I like to pull top 50% infinite stats. I think that it's like the most honest measure of like pretty high level players who are playing it. How is it going? And with the first week of the season in Snap, everyone's playing bots, so the numbers go crazy. But boy, oh boy, if you have been playing Marvel Snap the last week, I'm sure you are sick and tired of seeing Shulao, the 5 energy, 8 power with the ability on reveal, give the last character you played +3 power for each turn you played 2 or more cards. This card's crazy, dude. This card is absolutely insane. The way that you can play it into Maverick, then have Maverick go into a different card, play it onto a Scarlet Spider to double it. I didn't even really think about how many ways you can like multiply the buff in powerful ways when I was assessing this card, and already thought it was really, really strong. But man, this card is a menace. If you have the ability to get the season pass and you want to be as competitive as possible, strongly recommend you get access to this card. It is just an absolute powerhouse. And what's really cool is like, there's all this like Maverick, Scarlet Spider stuff that might be like the strongest thing that you can do with it, but there's tons of different things that you can do with this card too. Like I was playing a bounce deck with it that was really cool. Play like a Werewolf by Night version where you're just kind of using this as another powerful on reveal to maybe hit like a little tiny on reveal going around. This card works crazy with like Surge. Like I was playing in these decks, I think that like Surge is really what makes them so strong, because you're able to get the cards discounted. You're able to stay on curve, and just a nasty card. I strongly think this card will get nerfed. I think that there's a good chance that this card will just be like a 5/8 or maybe a 5/9 and change it to +2 power for each turn you played 2 or more cards. Maybe they'll change it to +3 power, but for each turn you played 3 or more cards to make it a little bit harder to get off. Maybe they'll just make it so that the turn that you play Shulao doesn't count. So everything will be down about 3 power-ish, but maybe people just play it out on 5 by itself then. I don't know. This card's way too strong. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. I like it. I enjoy playing it in decks, but I was telling you, I was getting really sick of it the first couple of days, and it is still everywhere. So really, really strong. Try and understand this card. Try and think about it a lot on turns 5 and 6, because this is the card that's going to really change it. A lot of my losses, I would say, from the last week have been not thinking about Shulao in turn 5 or turn 6, and that's something that you have to do. So really, really powerful. This card is the meta right now. Learn how to play it. Learn how to beat it. Moving on, we have Dragon of the Moon. And boy, oh boy, is this card bad. I tried really hard to make this card work. It's a 3 energy, 2 power with the ability steal, 1 power from all even costed cards in all hands. And man, it feels like you just play it as like a 3/4 so often, or like a 3/5, but it hits -1 power from 2 of your cards in hand. So like, what are you even getting out of it? I like some of the ideas with this card. It's like trying to be a card where you can play a bunch of 2-drops and then Luke Cage them away so you get the power from those cards and then you don't lose the power from them. But man, they were very they were very, very cautious when making this card is what I'll say. The problem is you have no idea how many even cost cards your opponents are going to have in hand. You can play this and get 4 cards from your opponent's hand. You can play this and get 0, and you just don't know until you play it. And that's tough. I think they're going to have to completely go back to the drawing board with this card. I don't even know what to think about how they're going to change this. But yeah, not a great card. Easiest skip of all time. Maybe it'll get buffed in the future. Trying it with the flick stuff, it felt terrible. It's just a bad card. Just a bad card, top to bottom. Speaking of a card I felt like I was pretty wrong about was Lockheed. 2 energy, 1 power ability, end of turn. If you played a 1 cost card this turn, clicked an enemy card here with -2 power. When I was looking at this card, I just thought worse Thana. Because Thana is +3, this card's only -2. And it's like, you're playing a 1 cost card and then like another card usually anyway. So it's kind of just like Thana, but worse. And you can now get hit with Luke and Shadow King instead of just Shadow King and the Thana. But really where this card becomes powerful is like specifically in Shu Lao and Kitty style decks, especially ones where you're using things like Surge or you're getting additional energy. Because when you're playing Thana and you have to play 2 cards, it can feel really bad some turns. It's like, okay, I really only just want to play 1 card here, but I should maybe play 2 for Thana, or like, I really want to play these 3 cards, but I can only play 2 for Thana. The 1 cost card, especially with things like Merlin and Kitty in the game, is so much easier to get off than playing exactly 2 cards. So I think that this was a missight on me of realizing how much easier it is to set up than Thana. And I think the card's really solid. I think it's just top to bottom, pretty darn good card. The stats were really good, but again, stats are messed up by bots, but also a ton of people are playing this in Shu Lao. So is it like, is this card getting good stats because it's so good, or is it getting good stats because almost every deck it's in also has Shu Lao, who's so good? I don't know. I'm not quite sure, but I do think this card is a lot better than I gave it credit for at first. An interesting card. I would love to try and maybe make like a Agent Venom Bass style deck with like this and Thana and a couple other cards get going. Maybe I'll try that at some point to try without playing Shu Lao, but just solid, very, very solid. Another card I wasn't great on, I know I didn't cover it last week because I wasn't exactly sure if it was going to come out or not, is the Majestic Wingbeat, a 1 energy skill with the ability on reveal, give your leftmost card in your hand +2 power. It's 5 cost or higher, -1 cost 2. I think I was a little bit wrong about this card. Also, it's very funny. The art on this, the face is messed up because I pulled it from a different site, and sometimes they have the layering messed up. I think I was wrong about this card. I even the first couple of days that came out, I was like, this card isn't really great. But it's just, man, it can get really solid. Like Joaquin Torres, it can become really, really strong if you play it down and then you're buffing the card up. I used to think like it's like, you're usually just getting +2 power. It's hard to decide on the left side of your hand if you get a 5 cost. But the amount of times I've faced, Joaquin Phoenix into this card into like a 3 cost Shu Lao is pretty crazy. So if you're only playing a couple of big cards, but you're able to like maneuver your hand around to get them into to position to play the smaller cards out to get it over to the left, you actually get some really, really good value from this card. It's a tough card to learn to play. I'm still not great at playing it, but I do think that this card is pretty valuable. How strong is it going to be overall? Is it going to be a card that continues getting played a lot? Not quite sure. It is a 1 cost skill that gives +2 power. Pretty straightforward with what it does. I do think that most decks want to have at least 1 or 2 5+ cost cards that would love to get hit with Majestic Wingbeat. But it's a card that's going to take some time for people to really figure out what to do with it. I'm still not exactly sure, but I tell you what, I get beaten up by it quite a bit, so I got to give it some credit there. And let's look ahead now to A little bit of high voltage overdrive. So you'll see there's asterisks here. This did get moved back one day. It was supposed to be January 11th to the 18th. Now it's going to be January 12th to the 19th. So it did get pushed forward just one full day. And this is how you're going to get Dragon Lord, where we talked about. If you pay the 800 for the premium pass, you can pretty much get it almost immediately. Or just playing it over the week, it's going to be pretty darn easy to get to Dragon Lord. Might not be able to get all the top rewards if you're going fully free to play and you're not going to get the extra pass, but getting to Dragon Lord should definitely be super doable, just playing through the missions and playing it. I really like high voltage, man. I think that this is such a cool... I don't really like streaming high voltage, but when I do play Snap off stream, like just sitting down on the couch, I prefer to play high voltage than normal Snap, I think. You know, it's something you can just sit back, not really care too much about, play a bunch of crazy cards, and call it a dang old day. You might be saying, Bynx, these left cards don't make any freaking sense with high voltage, and you're wrong. They freaking do. So the difference between a high voltage, which is 3 turns, and you get 2 cards per turn drawn, and you get a little bit of extra energy. There's a few different things. It's a 4-turn game, which is quite important. There's cards like Ebony Maw that are just like such an easy play in all high voltage decks, but now that there's 4 turns, Ebony Maw is not quite as good as it used to be because you can get that downside on the final turn. You kind of have to fill it with a lane to get value out of it. But also you're going to have 8 additional cards added to your deck that are created cards that basically have the surge buff. They have -1 cost and +1 power. So you're going to have all these additional random cards into your hand. So compared to normal high voltage, I think that you want to pull less away from fully synergistic cards and push a little bit more for just very powerful cards. And these bottom 3 cards are really unique in that they are kind of cards that are weird and not really, don't see too much play, but I think they're incredibly impactful in high voltage. And if you haven't seen them too much, you can use them and take great advantage of them. Cobra, the 2/3 activate, destroy a created card on your opponent's side of the board. It's insane in this mode. You do have to play it before turn 4, but pretty much they're gonna play one of their like big buffed cards, like one of their +1 power, -1 cost created cards early in the game. You just play Cobra on that lane and you just get to click it later and just delete that card off the face of the world. And you can do it like on the final turn too in really, really cool ways. So Cobra, an absolute all-star in this. When I first was playing like the first hour or hour and a half, I identified this card and also Spider-Man Noir, and I made a tweet about it. And then by like an hour later, I was starting to see Cobra in a lot more decks. So people are starting to catch on, but Cobra is a powerhouse. Isan, same thing. I mean, you have all these random cards that are getting added into your hand. So just having Isan that you can sometimes play it on turn 2 or turn 3 to just play those cards out for free is really, really solid. A very strong card that doesn't see too much play and it's kind of like very weird and niche. But in this mode in particular, it is a monster to get out because of all the extra energy that you have. And the one that's very hard to put together is Spider-Man Noir. So this is a 4/6. Where I pulled it from was still a 4/6, but it's a 4/4 now that sets the top card of your deck to 8 power, and you add it to your hand if you have exactly 8 power or 8 cost worth of cards on the field. And it's like, oh, why is Spider-Man Noir good in this mode? It is so easy to set up Spider-Man Noir. On turn 1, you just play out your biggest card, like Wiccan or anything like that. And then if you have Spider-Man Noir, you just look at the cards in your hand. You're going to have like 7 energy or something on turn 2. You're just like, okay, well, this makes 8. And then I play Spider-Man Noir. And it's just super, super consistent to get off the card that you're adding into your hand. It can be random, but you can like work towards it. But basically just getting a 4/12 worth of value out of it. And sometimes you can get some absolutely crazy cards that get pulled out. And then the 8 power is even better. I don't know if this one's like as insane because like 4/12 for 2 spots, is that crazy? I'm not exactly sure. It's really just the effects and stuff like that you can get on the cards, which is really nuts. You know, you pull a Sage out and then a Sage is just massive. Or you pull a Cobra out and then you just kill their card next turn. Really, really strong card and something that was like looked at it, I was like, this probably works. And I was able to activate it pretty much every time I drew it. So really, really interesting that a game mode like this can highlight these 3 cards that are very rarely played and don't make a lot of sense, but can actually be super, super impactful. And that's it, man. Thank you all so much for watching. I super appreciate it. I love doing these Bynx Bants. Again, let me know down in the comments below what your favorite card of 2025 is. Say some really cool things like that. Let me know if maybe I'm missing something with my Iron Fist and short of Fushi. Who knows? But I super appreciate it. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Please keep supporting Bynx Bants. And do you hear that?
Bynx,
It's the song.
Bynx, Bynx, Bynx. I hope you like the vibe. Bynx, Bynx. Like and subscribe. Bynx, Bynx. I hope you like the vibe. Bynx, Bynx. Like and subscribe.